You're listening to JetNation Radio, the official podcast of JetNation.com, the largest independent fan site in the NFL. Be sure to check out our forums and talk all things Jets with thousands of other diehard Jets fans. Now, to get you up to date on all the latest Jets news, notes, and quotes, here are your hosts, Naughton and Alex Varallo.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to an episode of JetNation Radio. This is your host, Alex Varallo. I'm waiting for Glenn to call in here so we can get some Jets talk out to you listeners. It's been a couple weeks for me, kind of going through the ringer. That's what life does to you sometimes, throws you a curveball. So, just got to do what everybody else does, put their best foot forward and take it one day at a time. It's the best thing that we can do. But, a lot of stuff's brewing in Jets land here. Looks like Glenn might be on the line here. Might be muted. I'm not sure. Glenn, are you there?
I'm here, Alex. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, great. How are we doing, man?
I'm doing good. Just reuniting myself back with Jet Nation and everybody. You've been holding down the fort for me as life has been throwing me a couple curveballs here, but, good to be back talking with you about our favorite team.
Yeah, I hope everything's settling down, man. Things were getting a little crazy for you there for a little bit.
Yeah, well, we're in phase one. I'm entering into phase two, and hopefully phase three will be over. Long story short, pipe went in my shower, flooded my neighbor, and now I'm just, supporting local business, as they say, trying to get all the repairs done in a jiff so everybody can go back to normalcy. But, that happens when you're a homeowner. Just like the Jets organization, sometimes leaks come through the cracks, and we get information in tidbits, and it looks like some information is leaking today. Have you been watching the Twitter feed, Glenn?
I have, and it looks like so for anyone who's not keeping up, within the last couple hours, Michael Lombardi, I believe it was, from The Athletic, tweeted out that a deal involving Yannick Ngakoue was imminent, likely to be completed tomorrow with a team for a second rounder. Within an hour of that, he tweeted out that his understanding was the Jets were heavily involved. Since he tweeted that, Manish Mehta of New York Daily News tweeted that the Jets are not involved. Not long after that, Rich Cimini of ESPN tweeted out for Jets fans to relax. And just a few minutes ago, Yannick Ngakoue's agents tweeted out that you've got to love it when a trade that isn't due to happen gets leaked by a fake reporter and picked up on by a national reporter and becomes a story, or something to that effect. But to me, the key words in the tweet from Ngakoue's people was "as of yet." So they didn't say no trade was in the works. They just said, as of right now, it's not official. So that's kind of an interesting situation. Listen, Ngakoue, I think we've talked about him. I would love Yannick Ngakoue to be a Jet. I don't see it happening. The primary reasons being, I think Joe Douglas values his draft picks. I think if Joe Douglas wanted to bring in a pass rusher with Yannick Ngakoue's price tag, he would probably just bring in Jadeveon Clowney and save himself the draft pick. You can give up a 2 and get Ngakoue, who you cannot extend until the end of this year, or you can offer a similar deal to Jadeveon Clowney and save your second-round pick. So it would surprise me, it's not that I don't want Ngakoue to be a Jet. I just think it goes against what I would expect from Joe Douglas at this point. But what have you seen, Alex, and what are your thoughts?
To be honest with you, I did not see that his agent went out and tweeted what you said, so that brings a lot of clarity to the situation. It's very, very
I'm trying to find the exact tweet.
Who was the lineman? Conklin. How everything was coming out with Jack Conklin being, all but, tailored into a Gotham green jersey.
Or the Jets were going to make him a record-breaking deal.
Right, and then it all
the
got
Jets were
going to
make him the highest paid offensive lineman in history.
Truthfully, it doesn't really match up to what we've seen thus far from Joe Douglas. And I'm not going to sit here and call him cheap or frugal or anything like that. We've all heard the reports about how he had his hands tied for, how much money he could spend in free agency. And, we didn't really make a lot of big splash signings. And, we let one of the better safeties in the league, get dealt, and we couldn't get a deal done with him. So everything to me just doesn't really make sense, because we know that Ngakoue is looking for, top elite money near that 18 to 20 million range. So, for me, it just doesn't sound like a Joe Douglas move. If it happens, it happens. Obviously going to support the guy, going to root for him, and hopefully he's a double-digit sack monster for the Jets. But, from everything that we've seen, it just doesn't make a lot of sense at this point. And, from what would make sense is Joe Douglas, holding out a little bit, waiting for another week or two to go by, and then maybe the Logan Ryan committee and the Jadeveon Clowney committee ends up saying, hey, look, we don't have a job right now. We don't have a contract. And not knowing what this season's going to do, probably best to get some sort of money on the table for you, and stop being, put the ego aside and stop being so greedy. If you got to sign an $8 or $9 million deal for a 1-year show-me contract, this sport you can't play forever. So, maybe that's what Joe Douglas is doing, saying, I don't have to be impatient. I can be patient. I can wait another week or so. And, maybe one of these players that were in rumors and talked about several weeks ago might come through. Because, right now, what is it, 17 million, almost 18 million on that franchise tag for Yannick Ngakoue, and that's a 1-year deal.
Right.
Would the Jets
the exact
want
quote,
to do
Alex,
that and give up, commodities in the draft? I don't know.
Yes, since you didn't see it, I just pulled it up. So this is from DEC Management, who handles Ngakoue. Always a good day when a, quote, reporter leaks a trade that's not happening as of now and then gets duped by a fake Twitter account of a national reporter backing up his fake trade. I love this site. So take that for what you will, but like I said, the key to me is the as of now. So none of the reports I saw said that it was a done deal. They said it was that they were close and it could happen by tomorrow. And then even the tweet about the Jets said, they were hearing that the Jets are involved. So nobody said anything was done. Nobody said the Jets were the only team. But like I said, Manish Mehta and Rich Cimini both seem to come out and debunk it. Rich Cimini just saying, calm down, Jets fans. Manish Mehta saying he's being told the Jets are not involved. And again, that would sort of line up with what our expectations are with this team, with Joe Douglas. And again, I would love Ngakoue, but I think Joe Douglas.
Who wouldn't?
I think he's going to hang on to those draft picks.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, the Jets have about $30 million on the cap year to date. So this guy's, 17.7. We'll just call it $18 million. That leaves us with $12 million for the rest of the year. You could probably, use that money and pick up guys off the street if, injuries occur or, this COVID quarantine situation happens. You're going to need some money throughout the season.
Realistically, if they wanted a deal to happen, they're projected to have $74 million in cap space next year. Even if the cap drops, they'll be in the 50 range. They could always move money around. They could approach a player who they know is going to be around next year and say, look, we're going to push, $5 million of your salary to next year, and we'll make it fully guaranteed to make it worth your while to let us do that. So money can be moved around. But I get your point, though. $17 million is a lot when you've only got $30 million in space. And do you want to have to jump through all the hoops of getting guys to move money around? So unlikely.
Yeah,
I tweeted out as soon as I saw the rumor, just that there was a trade rumored before the Jets were mentioned. I tweeted and said I would be shocked if the Jets were involved in this. Then about a half hour later, came the second tweet saying the Jets are involved in this, which I said, look, good, shock me, make a deal. But I don't see it happening. I just, we'll find out, obviously, if there's any truth to the rumor that he's being traded at all. The claim is that it's sometime in the next couple days or as early as tomorrow. So that'll be interesting to watch.
Yeah, so
but there.
What would you rather have, Glenn? Like, would you rather have one player at $18 million, or would you rather have two players, for $25 million, which could end up being like a Clowney and a Logan Ryan? I think I'd rather go with Plan B than Plan A at this moment, and keep our future draft picks. So,
yeah, I think
that's
the
what I would
thing
rather
with Logan Ryan is this supposed story. Who was it? I think it was Manish, and I think it was followed up by some other folks. Claiming that Ryan's agent has let teams know that his intention is to play safety, and that's one of the reasons he hasn't signed yet. So that kind of makes it a situation where the Jets probably don't want Logan Ryan because they don't need a safety. They need another corner. And really, to me, if you're trying to move to safety, if you're Logan Ryan, that tells me you don't believe in yourself as a corner, because that's where the money is. If you're a number 1 or 2 corner, you're going to get more than your sort of average, above average safety. Unless he really believes he can be a game-changing type player at safety, he's costing himself money by moving there. And so, again, if you're costing yourself money, that leads me to believe he doesn't think he can play corner. So who would I prefer? I honestly, a couple of weeks ago, it would have been an easier decision, but now, with Ryan reportedly looking to move, I'm looking at it like, well, maybe he's not that good, that he's looking to get away from the corner position and move inside. So we'll see what happens there. But the Clowney thing is interesting. I mean, really, we know that stats don't tell the whole story. But for a guy who's supposed to be a pass rusher, who had 3 sacks last year, and, I saw a report the other day, Alex, I don't know if you saw this, saying that he has had multiple offers in excess of $15 million a year, and he's turned them down. So he's obviously, these rumors of him wanting $20 million, maybe he's looking for $17 or $18 million a year. You're going to give a guy $18 million who had 3 sacks last year? I think that's going to be a tough sell.
Yeah.
And I don't think Joe Douglas.
I wouldn't do it.
The only way I would see Joe Douglas entertaining it is if it is in fact for a 1-year deal. Because Clowney also represents. Let's not forget, if you sign a guy like Clowney, if he's playing well, but you still don't want to meet his trade demand, his contractual demands, that's a decent trade chip toward the trade deadline for a contender that's looking to add a pass rusher. So maybe you carry Clowney for 5-6 games, and you pay him a bunch of money, but it gets you a 2nd or 3rd round pick.
Yeah. And did you see the false report that came out that everybody bid onto too, that we were sending like 2 third rounds, one this year and one next year?
I tweeted out. I was like, "Yo, people, like, don't buy this stuff. This is a fake account. Guy's got like 70 followers. I'm hearing this, that, and the other, saying he's hearing that the Ngakoue to the Jets is pending an extension. The extension deadline's passed. They can't sign him to an extension. Someone asked me, would the team, would the agent be able to waive that? I don't believe so, because that would sort of defeat the purpose of having the deadline in place. Teams would just waive it all the time if they wanted to. So I don't know for sure, but I don't recall anyone ever doing that, and I think it would sort of circumvent or would defeat the purpose of having it in place. So I don't believe you can get him signed to a deal. But yeah, spare me the Twitter account with 12 followers telling me that they're getting inside information from teams about the Jets are going to extend a guy whose extension deadline is passed.
Yeah.
But Twitter's crazy, man. We've talked about it. You can tweet out anything, and somebody's going to believe it, and someone's going to retweet it, and then 1 million people are going to see it, and some of those people are going to believe it, and you're going to have yourself like a few thousand followers based on a couple of bogus tweets. It's not my thing, but I know for some people, they need those dopamine hits. They like those likes and those retweets, and they'll say whatever the hell they can to get more of them. To each his own.
Yeah, pretty much. But training camp week, huh? Things are getting exciting.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, man. This is I understand why. I get COVID's a big deal, and there's reasons why this stuff is in place. But I talked about this. I did a podcast yesterday, Believe in Jets, and it's terrible. I mean, here's what I can tell you about the Jets a week and a bit into training camp. Chris Herndon made a nice catch. Brashad Perryman's fast. Mekhi Becton is big. I think that covers it. I think it's like all the news. Like Jeff Smith is getting some reps with the ones. No one's telling me if he's caught a football yet. No, I don't know if Jeff Smith has caught a pass yet, but I keep seeing people say Jeff Smith getting run with the ones. Jeff Smith is a dark horse, which I love. I said last year, look, Jeff Smith is a guy to me who, and I put it, when I did the 90-man roster rundown this preseason, or, a few weeks ago before the start of the preseason, to give, for those fans who don't keep up with every single guy on the roster. And I said about him, he's a guy who has a unique skill set that no one else on the roster has. He runs a 4.37. He played quarterback in college. He can be a good gadget guy, obviously very explosive. There's no one else on the roster who can do that, so maybe he finds a way to stick. So I'm excited to hear that he's running with the ones. No one's told me. I don't even know he's been targeted, let alone catch a ball. I don't know if anyone has thrown a ball to him. We know nothing about this team right now. Oh, Trevon Westphal made a good catch, that too. So there's 4 things I know about the Jets right now.
Good for him.
Yeah, apparently, and he made a nice catch today. So Herndon made a catch so far this week. Wesco caught a ball this week. Becton, like I said, Mekhi Becton's big. I don't know if you heard about that. And, 1 or 2 other things. Quincy Wilson intercepted the 4th-string quarterback today. That was huge news. I mean, this is terrible, Alex. This is brutal. I mean, Jesus.
I know. I'm looking at my media pass right now, and I'm getting sad.
and
from last year.
From my understanding, the media has access to like 2 more practices. So as bad as it's been, it's going to get worse in the coming weeks.
They have the guys like locked in a room looking at. They set up a couple cameras, and the cameras are pretty cool.
That was for the rain day. For the day that it rained.
Oh, that was for the rain day?
When the Jets were in the bubble.
Okay.
When the weather's been clear, they're outside on the sideline. But when it rained the other day, but still, just nothing. I'm seeing nothing. I'm seeing, Perryman had a catch and run today. He caught a bomb last week, but it's against safety.
Arthur Mollett got yanked from right out of his spot and got replaced right after Perryman burned him on an 80-yard TD. So it looks like Greg Williams is already in full season mode.
Yeah, and it's, somebody said today, actually, what I did want to touch on, because probably the most extensive information I've seen so far, Albert Breer of MMQB tweeted out a little while ago, he had 5 observations about the Jets. And, again, not a whole lot there, not much, but he had a couple of observations. Nothing earth-shattering, kind of.
Yeah, he talked about Herndon.
Yeah, Herndon.
I got to see those.
He talked about the catch I mentioned. Let's see. Right here. So Herndon made a catch. Early signs that there's chemistry there, which we expected. I've said a million times this offseason, Herndon is the X factor this year. If he's healthy, he gives the offense hope to be able to make some plays. The Jets want Denzil Mims back at practice. Shocking. They said he's been good during the virtual meetings, but I mean, really, how much are we going to take from that? Ashtyn Davis, who I did want to talk about, because that was another play I read about the other day, but it really does give you some hope, because that kid. I mean, listen, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to go back and do the revisionist history thing. Pissed when they made that pick, because all I heard was safety. And I was like, are you kidding me right now? Like, as much as we need receivers and O-linemen, and we have Jamal Adams and Marcus May, and you just drafted a safety? But, looking back, obviously now with Jamal gone, and I had a conversation with someone the other day, and I said maybe they knew then. Maybe on draft day they were like, look, Jamal, even if he's here this year, he's not going to be – we're going to get what we can for him. So Ashtyn Davis is a guy who can play that center field role better than anyone else they have on the roster. He's got world-class speed, and he made a play the other day that it's the kind of stuff you're hoping he can do. He went from the middle of the field to the far sideline to break up a pass. Now that's the type of stuff we didn't see a lot of from Jamal Adams, that you don't see a lot of from Marcus May. So, and we know Greg Williams loves playing that single high, that deep safety. So if he's going to do that, and Ashtyn Davis is his guy, and Ashtyn Davis is a guy who can cover, 30, 40 yards in a matter of a second and a half, 2 seconds, is he going to be an impact player as a rookie? Breer seems to think so. He says that, and he also listed the Jets have him listed as the backup safety, backup punt returner. But Davis, the bodies they have at safety after the Adams trade, with May on the roster, with Davis, I think we're going to see them rotate out a lot. But I'm kind of liking what Ashtyn Davis brings to the table now, looking with Jamal being gone and May likely spending a little bit more time in the box. Do you think that's out of the question to say that he's a guy with an expanded role? He's going to bring a dimension to the defense and listen, I know Jamal Adams is a great player, but there were some things he didn't do well. And I think covering a lot of ground from deep center field and breaking up passes, I kind of, a bit of ribbing the other day, because there's still a handful of Jets fans who are upset about the Jamal Adams trade. I think Ashtyn Davis is going to get an interception at some point against the starting NFL quarterback, which Jamal Adams has never done. So I think Davis could be a significant addition with Adams being gone. Do you think that's out of bounds?
The only thing that I think about is how last year, how things played out, and maybe it had to do a lot with, Quinnen Williams' health situation, because he did have, I believe, a high ankle sprain early in the year, but he wasn't a glorified starter on the team. The top three that it pretty much looked like it was going was Henry Anderson, Steve McClendon, and Leonard Williams up front until, some things had changed. And people were saying, like, what the heck is this? This guy's, number 3 overall, first-round pick. That starter material, you pick that guy to be an impactful player. And it didn't really seem like, the rookies were just thrown out there right away until injury, kind of forced Greg Williams' hand. So I'm intrigued to see what his role could be. I kind of, like, from what I've seen him, and I haven't seen a whole lot of film on him, and I'll be just dead honest with that, but he's got speed. He has range. He looks like, if he wasn't playing football, he'd probably be playing center field for, like, a professional baseball team probably. Because he's just, like, one of those kind of freakish athletes. So I could really see him as in a single high safety role. And like you said, putting Marcus May in the box, I can totally see that. And, we don't really know what to expect from this McDougal guy. Apparently, he has what it takes to start on any of the other teams in the NFL, respectively. So is Greg Williams the type of guy that's going to mix and match with his defensive back coverages and get creative? I could totally see that. So it's all a matter of, how quickly can he get an understanding of Greg Williams' defense? How can he carve out a role for himself? Because Greg expects his players to, have 2, if not 3 roles by the time that, September, October rolls around. Everyone's got to be versatile. You have to know this job, this other job, and when you're finally getting those 2 down, we're going to put a 3rd role into your mix in the event that we need you to come in a pinch. So I could definitely see him in the rotation. I just can't expect a rookie to be thrown out that soon. I think Greg Williams is going to make him earn it. I think that he is a talented athlete, and he will have some sort of a role in here. And I think the guy that's probably going to benefit the most at this point is Marcus May out of the 3 safeties. That would be my guess. That seems kind of like a no-brainer. And I just don't know much about McDougal at all. So I kind of could figure Greg Williams sitting here saying, okay, I have my system. I'm not going to be exposed by anybody. As we said today, Arthur Mollett got yanked after, blowing one coverage. And last year, as I've said many of times, when Bless Austin got burned just before halftime of that Week 16 game, he sat the second half, and he never got an opportunity to play snap Week 17 either. So that's the kind of coach that Greg Williams is. He doesn't play around. He doesn't, put guys out there that's going to make him or the team look bad, is from what I'm seeing. So I think this rookie's still got to earn it. I'd love to see him on special teams, kind of, being a gunner and blowing up plays. I could see him doing that. And then, maybe in certain situations where they're running like a cover 3 or a cover 4 style and you want to get more defensive backs in the field, I would definitely expect to see Davis in a deep coverage role, kind of, looking to make a turnover. So I'm excited to see what the kid's going to bring, but I don't think that he's going to have a significant role right away. I think Greg Williams is going to make him be a little thirsty and get a little hunger in that belly and make him earn a spot.
And that could be the case with Williams having that sort of old school mentality. So
interesting.
Real
I
quick,
just saw a picture of Yannick Ngakoue spotted in the Newark airport. Interesting.
Yeah, I saw that. I think that was debunked already. I think somebody kind of said that's just a picture of a random dude. Did you see that?
That would be hilarious.
Yeah, that's. I'm not sure about that
profile,
story, but
I don't know this guy well enough to say, just from looking at a side profile of somebody's face, that would be him.
Yeah, and it's kind of a weird angle. You can only see like part of his profile.
But that look more credible.
Yeah, I saw that and I was like, oh damn! And then I was like, wait a minute, how do I like that guy is turned to the side? He's got a big coat on. Like you can't tell how big he really is. You can only see a portion of his
and
side
he's not wearing
of his
a mask.
face.
I don't know about this guy.
Yeah, exactly. So real quick, Alex, the story earlier, the Jets had Dante Moncrief, wide receiver, in for a workout. And I wrote an article the other day that upset some people, and that's fine. But, you said, many people said during and after the draft, Joe Douglas should have taken more receivers. Now with Denzil Mims on the shelf. And look, people are like, oh, big deal, Mims, Hammy's a little bulky, he'll be back next week. Maybe he will. But look, anytime you're talking about these sub 4.4 guys and you're talking about hamstrings, sometimes those things linger. Sometimes get on the field and they're playing at 70%, or sometimes they can't even get on the field because the hamstring isn't better, or they re-aggravate easily. So, listen, I hope the guy's back on the field next week and doesn't look back. But the fact that Mims is dinged up, the fact that Doxson, who you couldn't really expect a ton out of Doxson anyway, but at least you looked at him and said, well, he's a guy who has shown he can catch passes in the NFL. Like he was one of the more experienced guys. Even if he ends up being your 5th or 6th, he's still a depth piece. And then Vyncint Smith tears a core muscle, and he's out for up to 2 months. And now it's like, all right, well, there goes Smith, who would have been backing up Mims, and Mims is down, and Doxson is gone. And you're looking at it thinking, did they really have to take a second, third-string quarterback, running back, when there were quality receiver options on the board? I still feel like they should have taken receivers, but now because they didn't, they're having to bring in and work out Dante Moncrief and sign Chris Hogan. I don't get that. If I had one criticism for Joe Douglas and the way everything's gone, it would have to be the receiver position. Moncrief had himself a nice season a couple years ago in Indy, 600-700 yards. So he's another guy, 6'2", runs well. But there's a reason why he's not on a team right now. And now the Jets are bringing him in to look at him because they need bodies at receiver. Do you want a Moncrief, and what do you think of the Chris Hogan deal?
I'm not somebody that's going to say that I don't think Moncrief could come in and not have a role here. I think he's still young enough, and he's done good things in Indianapolis. I don't think health or luck with his health department has been on his side over the last couple of years, but he's a quality vet. And, right now when you're looking at what we have year to date, Jamison Crowder is the best receiver that we have in this mix. The next best guy is an average receiver in Brashard Perriman. So, you put him in the mix, and he would give you some balance at least. And with Hogan, a little bit older, but he's a vet. He's, coming from the Patriots, so obviously, Bill Belichick wanted to bring him in because he thought he would be of value. Then, why couldn't we get something out of this guy? I would rather Hogan than a Demaryius Thomas. That's who I kind of thought the Jets would default to at this point in time. So I'm glad to see that, Moncrief is significantly younger than a Demaryius Thomas, and I kind of feel like there's probably some gas left in that tank. To kind of go back to what you were saying about that fourth round that Joe Douglas had, there were other established quarterbacks on the board, like the kid Eason, which I think was from Washington, and Jake Fromm from Georgia. Whatever your opinions are, that's fine. But those guys were ranked higher than James Morgan. So Morgan could have easily been had that fifth or sixth round, I feel. So I agree with you. I mean, you and I are on the same page. We were looking at players like Brian Edwards and Lynn Bowden Jr. and, guys that would come in here, and you match them up with Mims and Crowder and Herndon and Bell, Jets offense would look pretty electric at this point in time. But, we've already gotten hit with the injury bug in that one department, and now we're looking at guys like Jehu Chason. Who the heck is that guy? Apparently he's getting some reps these days. And that's just because the Jets have 7 active wide receivers. I guess maybe now 8 with Hogan coming into the mix, and maybe 9 with Moncrief. So if the deal's right, the guy's healthy, I would definitely bring him in because, like you said, hamstring injuries, you just never can tell. It feels good today. You go out during a warm-up, you feel that tightness that gets in your mind. And, I ran track for like 7 years, and I've had multiple lower leg injuries, and hamstrings are nagging injuries. They really, really can set you back. And even when you feel healthy, you hold back when you're running because you don't want to have that feeling, that burning, sensation in the back of your leg, because it's like you're getting shot, in the leg, and then you go straight down. And if you tear a muscle in there, the kid's gone for the year. So this is a sensitive situation here with Mims. The Jets have to be smart about this and not push him too hard. It wouldn't surprise me if, he's not there for us week 1. Could be one of those scenarios. I'm trying to be negative, but truth be told is that he could need a solid 4 to 6 weeks before he could start doing, real football stuff. I'm not his doctor. I'm not seeing his report, so I'm speculating. But, this is a little alarming. And, we're very thin with talent in that group. So not having a player like Mims definitely hurts. Still there, Glenn?
Yeah, sorry, Alex. I'd muted you there for a second. But, you can't just take for granted and assume he'll be back and he'll be 100%, there'll be no issues when you hear the word hamstring. And I've always felt that way, and I think that when you're dealing with these guys, these elite athletes, how many times have we seen it? It seems like it's often an elite receiver or just a speed guy. It doesn't even have to be a receiver. But these guys who run these sub-4 440s, a little tweak, and it's like, oh, it's lingering. Oh, it's going to be a week. Oh, we're gonna play it safe and sit him for another week. Oh, he needs. Oh, the bye's coming up. We're going to sit him this week, and that means he gets an extra 3 weeks. And it just drags on and drags on and drags on. And hopefully it is nothing. Hopefully the Jets are being super, super ridiculously cautious, and the guy would have been ready to go 2 days ago. But they're going to give him a few more days and make sure. Because, look, the season's coming. And I mean, how weird is that? I was thinking about this the other day. It's, we're just kind of going through this COVID world of ours. And it hit me the other day, like, the first time we see the Jets this year, it's going to count. Like, the first time we put on a television and they're in uniform, the game is going to count. And they and every team, but we don't care about every team, it's going to have players that have never been in an NFL game before. And they're going to be on the field, and having never gone up against an NFL player in even the joint practice. Not even that. They've worked against their own teammates, which is one thing. But when you're going against the guy who wants to take your head off when you're coming over the middle, what's that?
Like a rookie left tackle protecting the blind side for our franchise quarterback?
Yeah, and that, that's a question I asked a few weeks ago, maybe even a couple months ago, and said, if you're the Jets, do you start Becton week 1, especially week 2 when he's got Bosa? I don't know about that. Oof. I don't know if I go with Fant or Becton. We keep hearing that the Jets are so impressed with Becton, and Gase is impressed with Becton, and the players are impressed with Becton. But I've seen at least 3 tweets where he got beat once by Quinnen Williams. I saw today that Jordan Jenkins manhandled him and put him on the ground and beat him once a couple days ago. So he might be having some quality reps, but it looks like he's also having some bad ones. So what happens when he's got Bosa in week 2 and he's having a hard time with Jordan Jenkins right now? Is 3.5, 4 weeks going to be enough to get him ready to block the best pass rusher in the NFL, arguably?
Right. Yeah, I mean, that Bosa kid is electric, and, he's got springs in those legs. So, usually when you're in a fight situation, what can beat power, sometimes it's speed. And, Bosa definitely has the speed, and, you talk about Buffalo, they're a powerhouse up front. They've got some really, really good defensive linemen in there. And, you talk about Ed Oliver in the mix, and they got guys like Shaq Evans and, that 6'5" the Edmonds guy, that giant linebacker that they have. So, it's going to be a good test. And it'll be interesting to see, all signs are showing that Becton will be, on the left side starting week 1. And, the guy's got to play, I guess, because he's a top 10 pick or top 11 pick. And with the Jets' offensive line scenario right now, what are our options here? Fant at left, Adoga at right, and then we work Becton in. All you're going to hear is just, an outpour from the fan base here. You don't draft a guy, in that spot, and don't play him. Kind of the same scenario as what I had said with Quinnen Williams. So all signs probably allude that he will be there. And, the big factor is you got a big guy like that. We've seen all the highlight videos. He's a mauler. He's going to get his hands on people, and he's going to upend them, and he's going to bury some bodies out in open space like we've seen. But, when you're that big and you're not as fast as some of these speed rushers, that's where they're going to get you. And, hopefully he's able to adapt quickly, and, he's going to have to learn not to be, overzealous with the way that, he tries to do his pass protection. Good guy to have in-house to teach him, to Brickashaw Ferguson. He's one of our offensive line guys in there, so, hopefully he can get under this kid's wing and teach him how to do it the right way. He'll probably have to, I think I saw something that Frank Pollock had mentioned about trying to find a comfortable weight for this guy, and they probably want him to lose a few pounds just to make it a little bit easier for him, make him a little bit lighter, a little bit more fluid. So I do think the Jets have a game plan for him, and we'll probably see him deployed week 1. I'm pretty sure of it. But, sink or swim. And, I'm pulling for this kid. I really hope he ends up being, the guy that protects Sam for the next 10 years. And I hope everything works out for him as far as, health-wise and his weight and being able to do everything that we're expecting from him.
Yeah, you mentioned that Buffalo front seven. One thing worth looking at, and I know you probably had. I've done this a few times myself. You said Shaq Evans. I know you meant Shaq Lawson. Shaq Evans is one of the many busted Lawson. John Eddick draft picks. You said it, and I was like, hang on, because I've done that a couple times myself. But yeah, Shaq Lawson. One thing that worries me. I don't know if you saw that clip from a couple of years ago when Buffalo played Denver, and he apparently abused Connor McGovern. And McGovern had made some comments before the game about not knowing who Shaq Lawson was. And Lawson, chased him down after the game to scream at him, you know who I am now? Because he beat him pretty bad for a couple sacks. So
I do remember that, yes.
Yeah. So that's another matchup that's worth keeping an eye on, and especially the Jets, with this interior. The whole damn line is new, with the exception, Adoga. That was one thing, Alex. I don't know if you watched One Jets Drive yet. Really good episode. But heavy focus on the O-line and their chemistry. Not a single shot or mention of Chuma Adoga. I'm sitting there waiting. I'm like, all right, let's hear about Chuma. Yeah, I'm just like, let's hear about Chuma. Let's see what's up with Chuma. And nothing. And you mentioned that. Actually, one thing I wanted to touch on, Alex, I know I mentioned him earlier, Jeff Smith, the receiver out of BC. So this is one of the reasons, I should say, these are the reasons why I think the Jets clearly like the guy a lot. This regime didn't sign him. He was undrafted free agent out of BC by Mike McCagnon. Joe Douglas didn't sign him. And one thing we hear all the time, and I tweeted this the other day, you hear it from former players, I've spoken to former players that say this, just these undrafted guys, these late-round undrafted players, like, if they can't stay healthy, they're not making the team. Because, like, you're already on a short leash. If the team can't get a look at you, they have to move on. Jeff Smith was injured all preseason last year, didn't get on the field. So the team that didn't draft him, didn't get to play him, didn't get to watch him, and they kept him. And they kept him on the practice squad, elevated him to the roster late in the season. He made one catch and then got hurt. They put him on the shelf for the rest of the year and brought him back again this year. And now the first week of practice, they have him running with the ones, despite the fact they have more experienced guys who they brought in, but Smith is the one getting the reps. So whether he sticks or not, I don't know, but this regime clearly sees something in the guy that they like. I mean, how often, Alex, do you see a team keep an undrafted free agent who can't get on the field, and especially they didn't sign him? They have no loyalty to him. They didn't get to watch him play on the field, and yet here he is getting run with the ones. So I do like the idea that they like what they see in him, but just you mentioning, not a McCagnon guy. This is a McCagnon guy, and the Jets have hung on to him. And like I said, they may dump the guy tomorrow. I don't know. He might be the 90th guy or the 80th guy on the roster right now, but they're trying to do what they can to get a look at him. So he's an intriguing guy. Anytime you got guys that have these world class speed. With Joe Douglas having said, that's what he's looking for is fast guys. He's an interesting guy to keep an eye on. So we'll see how that goes. But one thing that I wanted to touch on also, Quinnen Williams, supposedly trimmed down, supposedly looking better. What are your thoughts there, Alex?
Yeah, I saw a little bit of his interview today after practice. Kid said a lot of good things out there. Kind of interesting on how he mentioned his mistakes and, how he was a little down on his rookie year, didn't feel like that represented him. And, he's looking to right all those wrongs and, become the player that everyone expected him to be, which is an unstoppable force up front. And he looks like he's been working really hard this summer and in the off season. He looks like he shaved down a little bit of weight because, he looked like one of those kids when he came in. You could see the size. You see, that baby-looking face and the braces and everything, and you could almost see, he's kind of carrying a little bit of weight in the belly, and, he almost looks like he hasn't really filled into his adult body yet. It seems like he's still kind of growing and maturing, and, this guy could end up looking like the Hulk, in another 2 years from now, once he starts trimming down a little bit more body fat and putting on, a little bit more muscle. Now that this guy's got, first-rounder salary, he's going to be able to eat right. He's going to have the right trainers around him. He's going to have the right people in it, in his group to, stay on top of him, make sure that he's just doing all the right things that a professional football player should be doing. So, I'm very intrigued to see the evolution of, this young player, which was he 19 or 20 years old when he was drafted. So, some guys are, continue to grow and mature. Not everybody, but for me, I just kind of feel like we're just breaking through the surface of what the potential could be for this Quinnen Williams kid. And I'm excited, because I think if this defense is going to be in the top 5, top 10 conversation this year, one of the big focal points is going to be his success. We lost a big guy in the back end, but if we gain a Pro Bowl caliber player up front, that can really, really balance your team out from, what we've lost already this year. Because we weren't getting any sort of pressure on the quarterback up front. We had to bring in a safety to do so in Jamal Adams. So now that he's gone, we're going to be forced to have to push those guys up front and those edge defenders to do what we want them to do, to get after the quarterback and make those big, impactful plays behind the line of scrimmage. And I think that Quinnen Williams will be one of the factors on how successful this defensive line will be. And if this kid hits his ceiling and starts to show that, he's a prospect that we all kind of, were hoping and reading about, and all the analytics going into this kid, he's gonna make this defense look so, unstoppable. Just to repeat myself again, because when we watched him in Alabama, it looked like nobody could compete with him. And if he can get to that kind of level of play this year, or start showing glimpses of that, I mean, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch this defense.
Yeah, I think, we all know that the potential is there. And my expectations, I've said all along, I didn't hate the pick the way a lot of people did. I thought it was a very good pick. I think he's going to be a dominant player. And one thing, and I think I said this after they drafted Becton, and when, the first interview I watched Becton in, and I had the same feeling when I watched Quinnen Williams, they just look like they're having fun. Like, they just look like good dudes. They take their job seriously, but they don't take themselves too seriously. They're just having a good time. At least that, from afar, from looking at them, and that, it's the right kind of attitude to have, enjoy themselves out there. Another quick note, just to touch on, the Jets signed a 6'8" tight end, Connor Davis, a Stony Brook product, who was apparently a force in the AAF for the XFL or whatever it was. Lot of big targets on this roster, but obviously this is a guy we don't know a whole lot about because he hasn't played at the NFL level, at least not as far as I can see. But Alex, your point about the defense, I think so much of it just comes down to the corners. I think that, listen, we know the D-line is solid. We know they have a really good, a damn good middle linebacker in Avery Williamson, and whoever they pair next to him is going to be at least an average to above average guy in Neville Hewitt, James Burgess, Patrick Onwuzar, whoever it may be. On the outside, you have Jenkins, who's a good player, not great, but good. And Basham came on late last season. We hope he can kind of pick up where he left off and be a really good player off the edge. Marcus May, another one, good player. It comes down to these corners, man. If the corners are solid, this team has a chance. I think as much as I've said Chris Herndon is the key to this offense, I think the corners are the key to the defense. And if they do their job, Pierre Desir plays like he did a couple years ago, and maybe Bless Austin plays the way he did early last year, or, when he first got on the field before he had a couple hiccups. I think this team has a chance to be, I think their ceiling is 9 wins. And I think next week, Alex, we'll probably do our prediction show. What's the record going to be? Probably predict the 53-man roster next week as well, because season's getting here, man. This past week should have been week 1 of the preseason, and it's normally after sort of game 2 or 3 that we do our predictions. So have those ready. But in terms of the corners, and see, again, this is the problem, and it's what's frustrating. Normally, either I'm out there for Jet Nation at camp, or we're getting reports or tweets from the reporters. So little out there. Quincy Wilson. Do you have a lot of faith in Quincy Wilson? Do you think he's a guy who could start on this roster? Or do you think, I feel like a guy who was given up for a 6th-round pick couldn't possibly start, right?
Yeah, that's what it would really seem like. But, at the same time, Greg Williams was able to get some decent play out of the Nate Hairston from the Colts, and they gave up on him until Nate Hairston, can't remember specifically which game he was in, where he had like a passing interference and let up a couple plays, and then I think the next week he was phased out. But
I think he got dinged up as well.
Like
I think he sat for the rest of the year after that, if I'm not mistaken.
And I know that he came in, and I think he played the nickel 1 week when Brian Poole was dealing with a possible concussion protocol, and he made an interception that play too, which is just, basically him being a benefactor of Williams' scheme and defense. But, if we could take a guy off, somebody's junk, that you were going to throw out on the curb in Nate Hairston and turn him into something for a couple weeks. He got time over Tremaine Johnson, who was being paid as a premier lockdown number one corner, and he was playing better at that point in time than Tremaine Johnson. So I wouldn't really write off Quincy yet. He could end up just being a guy in the bubble, and then, he's off the roster in a couple weeks. But I'm interested to see how this all plays out. If I were to say right now who's the top two, it's probably Desir, and I kind of would flip the coin between Austin and Mollett, and then the dark horse would probably be Wilson. If you look at these guys predicated off of what they did in college, you'd think that Wilson would be the guy that should be the number two. But things just didn't work out and click for him in Indianapolis. So, what is he working with now? He's working with like the 3s and the 4s maybe. So he's buried. He's got a lot of work to do. He's got a lot to prove. But he knows that there's opportunity to go up and go grab that number 2 spot. So I'm sure he's going to be working as hard as he possibly can to try to grab that. Would I feel confident with him as the number 2? No, I at this point, I still kind of feel like we could do better on the outside, and I don't know, if we could do that, with a Logan Ryan maybe from free agency. I would probably feel way more comfortable with a Logan Ryan and Desir situation than I would with a Wilson Desir. So we'll see how that plays out. I think he's going to make the squad. It's kind of a little bit of a preview to my 53 for next week prediction, but we'll have to see. We'll have to circle that one back. And it, like you said, it sucks not being able to be there and get eyes on the scene and be able to, give our audience, as we always have the last few summers, what we're seeing in camp live and up front, and, how we expect things to shake out going into week 1. So definitely hard to put these guys and write them in stone.
Yeah, it really is. That's been just frustrating. Again, the information is there's just so little of it.
I want to ask you a quick question. And I saw you write this the other day. Are you concerned about this, not having a preseason and these guys just basically, get out there and show us what you got week 1 in September? Are you concerned about them being able to get all on the same page and get gelled and become like that greased unit and all gears are going to be firing off all cylinders week 1? Do you think that's possible, or do you think it's going to be a little bit of a slow start?
No, I think it's going to be ugly for a time. You think most teams will have some struggles, but to have 4 new starters, 1 rookie on the O-line is going to be tough. Rich Cimini of ESPN did a piece the other day, interviewed former O-line coach Bill Muir, who used to coach the Jets O-line for a time, and he said it's basically the mission impossible. 5 guys who have never played together before and will not have a single preseason rep, and week 1 is game time. It's a little bit scary, to be honest, and I think we might see some extra protections for Sam Darnold. We might see some extra tight ends blocking. We might see a lot of Le'Veon Bell in the backfield picking up blitzers, because if you're playing the Jets and they've got 5 guys who've never played together before, you're going to blitz like crazy until they show they can stop you, and you either got to block them or Darnold has to make a couple throws that makes teams say, okay, we got to back off a little. But we only got a couple seconds left before we go. I want to thank our sponsor, Alex. Meant to do this at the top. JetNation Radio would like to thank our sponsor, Miles Social, That's MILE Social. milesocial.com. Check out their website. If you're a business owner and you need help managing all of your social media platforms, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever it may be, Mile Social has got you covered. Check them out at milesocial.com. That's MILE Social.com. Give them a look today. So, Alex, next week, possibly next week, definitely by the following week, we will do a season predictions, previews, rosters, awards predictions, playoff predictions, all that good stuff. And season's going to be here soon, man, and it's going to be interesting to say the least. Like we said, no reps for the O-line. That's the biggest factor. And how does that change how the Jets go about things? We will see. But that's it for us this week, folks. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we will catch you next week.
Thanks a lot, Jet Nation. Good to be back, Glenn.
All right, Alex. We'll catch you next week, bud.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at JetNation Radio. Glenn is at AceFan23, and Alex is at NYJetsLife24. Until next time, go Jets!